All right, so this next section is we're still going to be finding means, medians, modes and those kinds of things, but we are going to have to put our information, which is here, into a table first, and we are also going to graph them into what is called a frequency histogram and a frequency polygon. Okay, but first of all, the table. What you need to do is look through all of your, this is called raw data here up the top, and you want to find your lowest score and your highest score. So the smallest number that I can see in there is the number 0. That means that the biggest number would be the 5. I don't think there's anything bigger than that, is there? Okay, so that tells me that I need to start with 0 here in my score, and I have to count up to the number 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because they were the smallest and the highest number that I could find, and I wanted everything in between. Okay, so now, I'll get to that later. Now what I want to do is I want to go and fill in the tally, which means each number in the raw data, you're going to cross it off 2, and you're going to put a tally mark next to the 2 in the table. Cross off the 3 and put a tally mark next to the 3. Cross off the 0, put a tally mark next to the 0. Cross off the 1, tally mark next to the 1. Cross off a 0, another tally mark in the 0. Cross off the 2, tally mark. Cross off the 3, tally mark. Cross off the 1, tally mark. 0, 1, 5, 2, 1. When you get to the 5th tally mark, so when I cross off this second one, the 5th tally mark crosses over to group it into a bunch of 5. Back to 2, 4, 0, another 0, which is the 5th one to cross over, 5, and 3. Okay, now you've got to be very careful doing that, because if you put a number in the wrong spot or you miss a number, that means all of your results from here on are going to be wrong, which is horrible. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to do all that work and then find out you've made a mistake way back here at the beginning. Okay, so be careful please doing that. The next column, this F, stands for frequency. All that is counting up the number of marks that you have in your tally. So for 0 there was 5 tally marks. 5 for 1 as well, 4 for 2, 3 for 3, 1, and 2. Down the bottom of that row, you'll see that there's an extra box. This symbol is a Greek letter, and it is sigma. It means sum. It means sum. All right. Sigma means to sum. Okay, we are going to sum the frequency. So you get your calculators out, and you go 5 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 equals 20. Good. Okay, our next column. At the top it says Fx. F is the frequency, and over here x is the score. It means I want to times them together. Fx means 5 times 0, which would be 0. Then the next row would be 5 times 1, which is 5. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 4 is 4. And 2 times 5 is 10. Now again at the bottom, this means I want to sum that whole row, that whole column. Has anyone summed it up? 36. Okay. Next, now that we have a nice complete table, here comes all of this stuff again. Range, mode, median, mean, all those lovely things. So let's go through it. Range is going to be the highest score minus the lowest score. Now in my table here, you can see all the scores are here. The highest score is going to be 5. The lowest score was 0. 5 minus 0 is equal to 5. The mode is the score that happens the most. So we could look at our frequencies here to see these ones both happen 5 times each. That one only happened once, that happened twice. Those ones which had a score of 0 and 1, they would be both the mode. So it would be 0 and 1 because both of them happened 5 times, which was the most number of times of all of the scores. Median is the middle. Now, when you put your information in the table, it is putting it in order for you, so we don't have to come back up here to our raw data and put them all in a line again. But to find the middle, you can't really do that crossing off beginning and end thing. So instead, we're going to use the other method that I showed you when we did the dot plot. If there are 20 numbers in this table, I'm going to do the n plus 1 over 2, which means 20 plus 1 over 2 equals, what would that equal? 10.5. That is not the median, but it tells you the position of the median. So what you're going to do, you got options here. If you have a tally, you can count down your tally, and you can actually sit there and count all the lines and find the 10th and the 11th, because 10.5 means it's between the 10th and the 11th number. Or you can count down your frequency. So 5, then another 5, there's 10 numbers right there, which means the 11th number would be in here. 10th number's there, 11th number's there, which is scores between 1 and 2. So the median would be 1 plus 2 divided by 2. I'm averaging those two things. Okay, that makes 1.5. Then we're going to find the mean. Now, in all the other ones we did, we had to get our calculators out and we had to painfully go that plus that plus that plus that plus that and add them all up. The reason we have this column is because this here is adding up your numbers for you. That 36 is the sum of all of your scores. So it's going to be 36 on the top of the fraction for the sum of the scores. The number of scores is 20. That one, the 20. So it's just those two numbers down the bottom. 36 divided by 20 is 1.8. Okay, quartiles. If I had 10.5, that was where I found my median. That means that I have 10 numbers at the bottom end and I would have 10 numbers at the top because 10.5 is right in the middle, remember? So 10 down here, 10 up there. Let's just focus on the 10 at the lower end. What is going to be the middle of those 10? I'm going to do another 10 plus 1 over 2 to find the position. This is my little find the position formula. 10 plus 1 over 2 is 5.5. That means the Q1 is 5.5, which means between the 5 and the 6 positions. So there's my first 5 numbers. The last one in here is the 5th number. The first number in there is the 6th number. So my Q1 is going to be between 0 and 1, which will be 0.5. Yes, so we go 0 plus 1 divided by 2, which would be 0.5. To do the upper end, it's probably easier to start with your bottom number and try to find the 5th and the 6th one going back upwards. Okay, so we go 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all in there. Yes? So that means 5 and 6 are both in there. So 3 is going to be your upper quartile. Then to find your interquartile range, we do Q3 minus Q1, which is 3 minus the 0.5, which makes 2.5. Okay, next, we have to graph. Have we done this one? We haven't. We have to graph this table, which unfortunately is on a different page. So we're going to look at this for a second, but then you're going to have to flick back if you want to see the numbers I'm talking about. I'm going to sketch this table into a frequency histogram and polygon. The numbers that I need across the bottom of the graph are going to be the scores. Okay, so these ones here are going to go across the horizontal axes. The vertical axis is the frequency, because you want to know how many times each one occurs. Okay, so over here, any good graph needs a title, and I didn't read it to you before, but this was the scores represent the number of wickets that Mitchell took in the last 20 games. Okay, so this is Mitchell's wickets. No, it's all made up data. Okay, the horizontal axes. Oh, it's frozen. Are we back yet? Oh, there we go, maybe. There we go. Froze for a second. Okay, across the horizontal axes, if you have a ruler, we're going to be doing a lot of graphing. You need to draw a line. No, it really doesn't want me to do it. There we go. Draw a line across the bottom, please. Guys, quiet. And a vertical line up the side. Across the bottom, we are doing the score, and the scores that we had were 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, because this is going to be little columns coming up, we need a bit of space in between them. So what we do is we use every second line on the grid paper. So I'm going to have a mark there, every second space on the grid paper. And each one of those little lines are my scores. So I had 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, you should always do an extra space. Even though 6 was not one of the scores that were in our table, we need it when we draw our polygons. So please always do an extra. The vertical axis is the frequency. So F for frequency. And the highest frequency we had was 5. So let's not squish this graph up too much. Let's spread it out. Every second space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I probably could have even stretched it further, but that's okay. We'll do that one. Always make sure your graph is set up properly. You get quite a few marks for just making sure you've got your title, you've got the horizontal axis labelled, both here with the title and with your numbers. This axis is labelled and it's numbered. Okay, so you get a few marks just for doing that part. Now we want to draw the histogram. Now, the score of 0 happened 5 times. Now, you should be doing this nice and straight with your ruler. You want to start one space from the end, and your column should look like that. So that the 0 is right in the middle of the column, and the column is half on either side of it. You can colour it in if you like, yes. Okay, then we'll do the next one. The score of 1 was also 5. So I'm going to draw another one right next to it. There should be no gap in between your columns. There is a gap here at the start. There must be a gap here at the start. But these columns in between, there should be no gaps. They're all going to be next to each other from here on. Why is there no gap? It's just the type of graph that we're doing, because when we do a cumulative one of these, we can read off medians and things, so we need no gap in between. Okay, 2 had a frequency of 4. Three had a frequency of 3. And 5 had a frequency of, no, I missed 4, sorry. 4 was a frequency of 1. 5 was a frequency of 2. And there was no 6. Okay, so that is what is called a frequency histogram. It's like a column graph. Column graphs have gaps in between, which is what's different. Histograms don't have gaps, column graphs do. Okay, so this is called a histogram or a frequency histogram. But you'll see at the top, it says frequency histogram and polygon. The polygon is a line graph that goes across the top. So the first thing we do is we put dots at the center of the top of each of the columns. There is 2 extra dots though. 1 dot needs to come down to the next number in the line, which is why I needed that extra spot. I needed that 6 because my polygon is going to have to come down there to finish it off. There's 1 more dot which needs to be the very, very start, which is why I need that half base gap on that side. Okay, now you get your ruler again and you do a dot to dot to carefully draw straight lines in between each one as we go across. Always going from left to right. Don't try to skip any and then go back. They've got to be in order. You can use different color pens. Just be careful with graphing though. The biggest problem that people have in a test is if you make a mistake and you are writing in pen, yes, there's liquid paper, but then all of a sudden you're losing your grid paper behind it, your liquid paper and stuff out. So I highly recommend doing all your graphs in pencil because then you can erase your mistakes, or erasable pens, that's another option too. Yes, because if your colours are pretty and everything, but if you make a mistake, it is very hard to fix it. Okay, so that is it. That is one question. And you can see how long that was. We had to do the table, we had to do all this range, modes, median stuff, and then we still had to draw a graph as well. Okay, so there is one question there for you to start on, but it's not homework if you don't finish it, but we'll get a start on it now.